Hello and welcome back to Bookish Theories. In today's video, we'd like to talk about Tumoro우바이투게더 and iann Dior's Valley of Lies, focusing on a little breakdown and analysis of the lyrics and the visualizer to see how they connect to the ongoing concept and storyline. Valley of Lies is a song written by iann himself and describes the story of a boy trying to move on after the sad ending of a relationship. In doing so, the protagonist of this story has to cross a metaphorical Valley of Lies, where the boy has to confront the pain of his past and overcome the end of his own world in order to move forward. Now, right off the bat, the theme and imagery of the song connect us right back to the main concept of Minnesota Thursday's Child, where the boy of the story experienced his very first heartbreak and had to overcome several stages of grief before eventually moving on. After experiencing denial, rage, resignation, and loss, the album ended on a somewhat positive note. Even if Thursday's Child still had far to go to heal his broken heart, the lyrics also promised that he wouldn't cry again over the love that he lost. With Valley of Lies, however, we take a bit of a step back in his healing process, because after breaking his heart, his one and only actually comes back to beg for forgiveness. As we see in the video, while the boy is trying to move on towards uncharted roads, the girl reaches out, seemingly expecting him to just take her back. As he crosses the Valley of Lies, however, the boy remembers the times he waited for her knowing that she wouldn't show up, so this time around he chooses not to give in and move forward by himself. Now, even if this is the right choice, the song also shows us that standing by this decision is not an easy task to accomplish, because when things get rough, the boy of the story wants to see her again and is very close to giving up. This back and forth of contrasting emotions is something that we also saw in Thursday's Child, but as the boy crosses the Valley of Lies, he keeps going even if he hates it. This is because remembering these lies is as painful as it is important for him to heal. Him realizing how much the other person hurt him is obviously very sad, but it's also a necessary step for him to move forward and never look back. Now, if you look at this concept in the context of their albums, this is actually a very interesting twist in the story of growth told by Tumoro우바이투게더, because Valley of Lies actually references many more songs than what it seems. The whole idea of the boy remembering painful lies as he faces Armageddon, for instance, is very reminiscent of the main theme of Can't You See Me, which was a song that portrayed the ending of a friendship as an apocalypse that destroyed the world as they knew it. As we know, Armageddon is a central event in Tumoro우바이투게더's lore, and if we compare story and music, the two often go hand in hand. If in the Star Seekers the boys have to face a literal apocalypse, however, when it comes to the coming-of-age concept of their songs, the apocalypse is more of a metaphorical event, if you will, usually representing the ending of a defining stage of their youth. In Can't You See Me, for instance, the world ended when their friendship crumbled and they asked themselves who was the liar. They lied to each other, and after the trust was gone, the world was destroyed as a result. In an interesting parallel, the same thing is happening now as well, with the difference that in the love story, the liar was you all along, who turned love into a lie and caused them to face Armageddon once again. As iann tells us in Valley of Lies, there was a time where they thought you were the one, and this line is a reference to 0 by 1 Love Song, where their you was described as their one and only. This was the person whose light saved them from chaos, but now she's the one bringing chaos back in. After all, just like love can save from chaos, the absence of love creates a void, so if in the past you melted their frozen heart, now this same person is breaking the very heart they thawed. Now, as we already saw in Thursday's Child, this heartbreak also causes a drastic change in their identity, because in the concept we saw the death of the good boy for the bad boy to finally come out. In Good Boy Gone Bad, this rebirth was commemorated with the literal funeral of the good boy, and this death is also referenced in Valley of Lies. Back then, the song began with them putting the nail in the coffin over the word forever, and Bongyu getting buried alive as the bad boys bid him farewell. In Valley of Lies instead, the boy sees a coffin that fits him and cannot open his eyes because they've been sewn shut by a silky stitch. Much like the sealing of the coffin, the stitching of the eyes implies that there's no coming back for the good boy. In Thursday's Child, the bad boy was freed in a shut-eyed night of despair, so in both cases, the shutting of the eyes, that is, the death of their past self, is a necessary step towards freedom. This is something that is confirmed later on just as well, because as iann remembers the past, he says that now it's time to take all the memories in his head and burn them away deep in the valley. This is because, in a sense, the good boy was alive lie in and of itself. Even if in the song their lover is painted as the liar, in Good Boy Gone Bad they straight up admitted that they created the good boy thinking that it was the person the other wanted. Because of that, it only makes sense for the memories associated to that person to be buried in the Valley of Lies, because that's what that persona essentially was. Despite of that, it's pretty clear that on the boys' side their love was sincere, because back in Lose Her Lover they were ready to run away together even knowing that their attempt at flying would result into a fall. Back then their love was so strong that they willingly accepted their downfall just to be with their person, but now they're finally admitting how much their choice actually destroyed them. You see, if we take a look at Valley of Lies in context, the progression is pretty clear. In Lose Her Lover they jumped off the highway, in the Japanese 0 by 1 love song they experienced their fall, in Good Boy Gone Bad they crashed like fallen angels leading to the death of the good boy, and in Valley of Lies they see their own coffin after losing their heart in the sky. If back in Cat and Dog their puppy love shined color in their monochrome world, in Valley of Lies their love turns back to grey because the lies of their lover took away the color of their life to the point of making them bleed monochrome diamonds. As you can see, Valley of Lies wraps everything up very neatly. Not only that, it further expands on the path that awaits the Thursday's child that still has far to go. In the video, we even get a peek at all the memories the boy remembers in his healing journey, and like the lyrics, the visuals reference many videos we already saw before. At the beginning, for instance, the boy is using his phone as he walks through the woods. This wooded area is very similar to the forest from Magic Island, with the visuals recalling Nap of a Star, Magic Island, as well as Frost. When the woods start to clear, on the other hand, in the sky we can spot the first meteor announcing the Armageddon, and this side is actually very similar to the falling star that we saw back in Blue Hour. At the time, the stars seemed to have a more positive meaning, but in both cases, this event announced the beginning of a more difficult stage of their life. When we officially enter in the Valley of Lies, the canyon that we see in the background is very reminiscent of the landscape that we saw right at the end of Lose Her Lover. The Red Apocalypse instead is something that we already saw several times, because in the Star Seekers, the Doom's Night is presented pretty much in a similar way. As we saw back in Magic Island and Eternally, for instance, the awakening of the dragon is associated to the meteors falling from the sky. The red landscape, on the other hand, was hinted at back in Frost, and more recently the Armageddon looked the same in the VCR of Out Lovesick. The references to the Star Seekers, however, don't end there, because when the apocalypse ends, the visualizer shows us the boy under a starry night that is reflected in a body of water. These visuals look like the Star Seekers concept photos, with the characters standing in a landscape that looks exactly the same. When the boy begins to fly, on the other hand, he floats among pink and purple clouds, thus recalling the scene in Blue Hour of the boys falling in the world of their imagination. As he goes above the clouds, however, the visualizer references his downfall in the Japanese 0 by 1 love song, with the sky brightened by the same meteor shower that we saw back in that video. By the end, the boy lands back in the same forest from the beginning, thus hinting at the idea that, despite of his progress, Thursday's child still has far to go. To know what awaits him at the end of his path, we'll have to wait and see, but in the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please think about liking and subscribing. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye bye!